Ever scroll through your phone and kind of wish you could just, see what you need? Like actually understand what's on its own screen?
Yeah, yeah.
Well, get this. There's this new AI system. It's called Ferret UI, and it's trying to do just that.
It's pretty wild.
And today on this deep dive, we are going straight to the source, the research paper from the brilliant minds over at Apple AI.
It's really interesting stuff because what's so groundbreaking here is that we're finally kind of addressing this major disconnect between how we interact with our phones, right, visually, and how the phone itself actually sees its interface.
Yeah, okay, so let's break that down a little bit because it's definitely more complicated than our phones just taking a screenshot.
Oh, absolutely. It's way more than that. So you see, current AI models, they really struggle to grasp the visual language of user interfaces, like they're either busy recognizing objects in like natural images, like think a dog in a park or a sunset.
Right.
Or they're limited to these very, very basic UI interactions, like tapping a large, obvious button, the kind that basically screams, "Press me."
Okay, so finding like a tiny settings icon in a sea of apps, something we do without even thinking, that's like mission impossible for today's AI.
Precisely. You got it. And that's the gap that Ferret UI is really trying to bridge. It's like, imagine if your phone had this ability that we do to not just see these pixels on a screen,
Right.
but to instantly recognize like buttons, text, icons, all those little elements that make up an interface.
Right.
And even more importantly, understand how they relate to each other.
No, that is where it gets really cool. So the research paper, it describes Ferret UI as giving AI the power to both. Like see and understand language at the same time. How does that even work? That sounds like something straight out of science fiction.
Yeah. It is pretty futuristic, honestly, but basically it all comes down to training. We're training the AI to connect those visual elements with their actual meaning and their function. You can kind of think of it this way. It's like giving your phone a pair of glasses that can zoom in and out, focusing on different levels of detail on the screen. But then it also has this brain that can actually process those details and understand what it's seeing,
Okay, I'm already blown away here, but let's talk about how the researchers actually trained Ferret UI. Because they used like a massive data set of iPhone and Android screens, right?
That's right, a massive data set. And this part is really crucial because it wasn't just, like a random jumble of screenshots.
Right.
These screens were very carefully and meticulously labeled, like with information about every single element, the buttons, the text, the icons, and most importantly, their function within that interface. And then they started giving Ferret UI, like increasingly difficult tasks, to see how it would perform.
So walk me through an example. What kind of tasks are we talking about here?
Okay, so picture this. You show Ferret UI screenshot. Let's say it's of a login page, right?
Oh.
And you ask it, you say, how do I log in? Now, the AI has to do more than just identify a button based on, its shape or its color. It learns to pinpoint that login button based on its position on the screen, its relationship to other elements, like maybe a password field, and most importantly, its role in the overall function of that specific screen. So it's not just recognizing patterns, it's understanding context.
Wow.
Which is huge.
That's really impressive. So it's really about like teaching AI to see the whole picture, kind of the way humans do, not just like these isolated parts, right?
Yeah.
But did it actually work? Like, did Ferret UI pass the test?
Oh, yeah. In fact, it really exceeded expectations.
Wow.
The research paper, it highlights how Ferret UI actually outperforms existing models in some really impressive ways.
Okay.
Like, for example, it can accurately read text, even when it's partially obscured, like by other elements. Oh, wow.
Or even, cut off by the edge of the screen.
Right.
Which is something that really trips up a lot of current AI.
Right.
And we're talking a significant leap in accuracy here, too, like around 30% better than previous models.
30%, that's huge. Like, there are times I struggle to read things on my phone.
Yeah.
And I'm a human with, years of practice at this.
Exactly. And it's not just about, identifying those individual elements. The paper really emphasizes Ferret UI's ability to actually understand the context of those elements.
Okay.
So like it can tell the difference between, say, a back button and a buy button.
Right.
Even if they happen to, look visually similar.
Yeah.
Which is a really critical distinction that previous AI models have really struggled with.
That makes total sense. It's like, that feeling when you accidentally hit the wrong button on your phone because they were like right next to each other and they looked almost identical.
It sounds like Ferret UI could like actually prevent those kinds of like those UI mishaps.
Exactly, exactly. And that's what makes this research so exciting, right? Like
Yeah.
it's got these really, really remarkable potential applications.
Yeah.
And, the researchers outline a bunch of them in the paper, but, starting with like accessibility.
Okay.
Imagine like assistive technologies that could truly understand and interact with any app regardless of its complexity.
Right.
This could be absolutely revolutionary for users with disabilities. Like it could make smartphones significantly more inclusive.
That would be incredible. I mean, everyone deserves equal access to technology.
Absolutely.
And it really does sound like Ferret UI could be a massive step in the right direction. So what else are the researchers kind of excited about?
Well, beyond accessibility, think about the potential impact on like just user experience for everyone. Like what if your phone could actually anticipate your needs based on your habits and what's happening on the screen at that moment?
Okay, now you're talking about a phone that's starting to sound a lot more like an actual assistant.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Like imagine, you're using a navigation app
Right.
and it suddenly starts pouring rain outside.
Okay.
Now, a future version of Ferret UI, knowing that you usually prioritize avoiding traffic when the weather's bad, it could like automatically pull up alternate routes or even suggest switching to a different mode of transportation entirely, like, ride sharing all before you even have a chance to like pull up your ride sharing app or type in a new destination.
Okay, that would be seriously impressive. Like no more fumbling around with our phones when we could be, focusing on like actually navigating the real world.
Exactly.
It almost sounds too good to be true.
Well, that's the thing about cutting edge research, right? Like
Yeah.
as exciting as the potential is, the researchers are also like very upfront about Ferret UI's current limitations.
Right. Of course. I mean, every groundbreaking technology has its, its early hurdles. So let's dive into those a little bit. What are like the main challenges that the researchers are still kind of grappling with?
Well, for one, as advanced as it is, Ferret UI is still like dependent on the accuracy of its initial UI element detection.
Right.
Like if it can't see an element correctly to begin with, it can't really understand its meaning or function like within the broader context of the interface.
So basically it's like that old saying, garbage in, garbage out.
Exactly.
If the initial input is faulty, the whole system can kind of break down.
Exactly. And another limitation that they point out is that right now Ferret UI is primarily focused on like recognizing and understanding like concrete elements, like those
Yeah.
buttons, text, icons, and so on.
Right.
It's not yet equipped to grasp more like abstract concepts,
Okay.
overall design aesthetics,
Right.
or the nuances of user experience, right?
Right.
So it can recognize the ingredients, but it can't quite, judge the flavor of the final dish, so to speak.
Interesting. So it can understand what's on the screen, but it can't yet determine if it's a good or bad design, like from a user's perspective.
Exactly.
It's like the difference between like reading a restaurant menu and knowing whether you'll actually enjoy the food.
That's a great analogy. Yeah, it can tell you what's on the menu. It can even like understand the relationships between, the appetizers and the main courses and the desserts,
Right.
but it can't tell you what tastes good. And that's a really, crucial aspect of user interface design that Ferret UI hasn't quite mastered yet.
It sounds like there's like a ton of potential here, but also like plenty of room for growth.
Definitely, yeah.
So where do we go from here? Like what does the future hold for Ferret UI? It really does feel like we're like on the verge of something big here. But that whole user experience piece, that's a fascinating challenge. Did the researchers give any insights into how Ferret UI might like tackle that in the future?
They did, and this is where things get really, really mind-blowing.
Right.
Like they suggest that future versions of Ferret UI, could actually move beyond just recognizing individual elements and screens, right?
Right.
They believe it could actually learn your specific preferences
Okay.
and your habits as you use your phone.
So not just understanding what any user might do in a given situation, but what I personally am most likely to want to do next. That's like next level personalization.
Exactly. Like picture
Sure.
this. You're scrolling through your phone. It's like the evening. Ferret UI, having like learned your routine, it knows that you tend to like wind down with an audiobook before bed, right?
Right.
So it automatically pulls up your audiobook app.
Wow.
Maybe even like suggests the book you're currently listening to without you even having to like lift a finger.
Okay, now that's a phone that's not just a tool, it's practically reading my mind.
Yeah.
But even beyond like anticipating our needs, like how would Ferret UI actually measure something as subjective as a good or bad user experience? That seems incredibly complex.
Oh, you're absolutely right. It is very complex. But the researchers, they offer some really intriguing hints, right?
Okay.
Imagine like Ferret UI being able to analyze not just, those elements on the screen,
Right.
but also like track things like, how long your gaze lingers on certain areas, how often you backtrack through menus, even like subtle shifts in your finger pressure as you interact with the touch screen, right? All of these could be like indicators of whether you're finding an interface, intuitive and enjoyable or, frustrating and clunky.
That's wild. It's like giving our phones emotional intelligence.
Right.
Like the ability to sense our like satisfaction or lack thereof just by how we're interacting with them. It's like they're learning to read our digital body language.
That's a fantastic way to put it. And as Ferret UI gets better at interpreting those signals,
Yeah.
right? Like it could provide like invaluable feedback to app developers, help them create interfaces that are truly, truly user friendly,
Right.
not just, visually appealing. Like we're talking about a future where technology adapts to us,
Right.
not the other way around.
This has been an incredible deep dive. A bit mind-bending at times, but in the best possible way.
It really is fascinating stuff.
So if there's one like key takeaway
Yeah.
you want our listener to kind of walk away with, what would it be?
For me, it's the realization that we're really witnessing this paradigm shift in how we interact with technology.
Yeah.
With Ferret UI, AI isn't just like, processing information anymore.
Oh.
It's starting to actually experience the digital world in a way that's closer than ever to how we experience it,
Right.
with all its, nuances and complexities.
It's like we're really bridging the gap between human like perception and digital comprehension.
Exactly.
And to our listener, we want to hear from you. Like what aspect of Ferret UI's potential has you like the most excited or maybe even a little apprehensive? Head over to our website or find us on social media to share your thoughts and keep the conversation going. Until next time, happy diving.